That's how I understand it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
A brute fact is something that just is the case.
Yeah, without
and there's no assumption that it has to be necessary. That it has to be the case.
So,
it just is.
That's the problem with your understanding. With all due respect.
Well, can we get? Where is the evidence that a brute fact is a necessary fact?
Let me explain.
Well, I don't want an explanation. I want a reference.
No, let me explain.
Well, then it's just you asserting something.
No, let me explain.
Okay.
You said yourself, a brute fact is something which does not require an explanation.
I'm not saying it doesn't require it, it doesn't have an explanation.
What's your definition of it? Something?
My definition of a brute fact is something that doesn't have an explanation.
Good. So which means it doesn't require one, right?
Not necessarily. We might. Once it depends what you mean by require an explanation. I mean,
semantics here.
Well, no, but this is important, right? So, if we talk about what do we mean by explanation, generally we mean there's some reason as to why. Okay. So
a brute fact doesn't have that.
It's us, but you could say what we mean by require is us require.
But a brute fact doesn't have that, right?
It doesn't have an explanation.
Good.
Right.
Okay, that's the exact definition of a necessary existence.
No. Necessary means it couldn't be otherwise.
Yeah, which means it doesn't have an explanation.
But you're conflating two things.
Why?
So a brute fact is not making a claim that it couldn't have been otherwise. It just isn't otherwise.
I understand.
Right?
Okay, fine.
But that's not the same as necessary.
I understand.
Necessary means it couldn't have been otherwise.
No.
But there's a logical contradiction if it was something else. But brute fact does not have that
So
in it.
You're saying that a brute fact is that, for example, the universe just is.
Yeah, that could be.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. Now, let's agree with that for the sake of argument. A brute fact saying the universe just is, which means it doesn't have an explanation. Okay? Every necessary, if we're describing a necessary existence, would you agree with me that a necessary existence is a brute fact?
Well, no, because I think a necessary. I tell you why. Because the whole point of a necessary thing is that it's self-explanatory. There is an explanation of why it exists, and the explanation is in some logical necessity. So the assertion about necessary things, and I should add that we don't really know whether necessary things or brute facts even exist. They're all just philosophical assertions.
Let's use your language. I ain't got a problem.
Okay, fine. Right, but the whole point of a necessary thing is that it does have an explanation, and the explanation is itself. Brute facts just have no explanation. So there is, in my understanding, a distinction to be made between a necessary thing and a brute fact.
Let's go with your one. Okay. Let's go with your one. For the sake of, I don't want to make this into
right. We need to get to the argument. We're kind of going into a sideshow. Why don't we get the argument?
No problem. Whether you want to call it a brute fact or not.
Okay.
I don't care.
Right.
The point is that you're saying, if you've said that there's something which is a brute fact, you agree with that? Yeah, there's something that is a brute fact.
No, there might be. I don't make an assertion that there is.
Might be something which is a brute fact.
Yeah.
Which means it doesn't have an explanation in your understanding.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Which means what you've said is that in that understanding there cannot be an infinite regress of explanations.
That doesn't mean there can't be an infinite regress of things. If there's
hold on.
Okay.
No, because before you take the ball and run the other direction, I want to please listen to what I'm saying, Philip.
Yeah.
Please. You said brute facts, okay? Yes? Brute fact you've explained and defined as something with no explanation. Accepted, yeah?
Sorry?
Something with no explanation.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Something with no explanation, and you said that might be the case.
It's possible.
Yes,
conceivable
that there might be a brute fact out there.
Yeah.
All right. If it's conceivable that there may be a brute fact out there, then what you're negating, if you believe that, is an infinite regress of explanations.
Okay, so it depends. No, not necessarily.
Yes, necessarily.
Well, okay. So first off, it certainly could be that the universe. We go to this caused this, and this caused this.
I'm not saying cause.
Okay. Well, I think this is important. Okay. And it could be that there's something at the bottom, that is just a brute fact. Okay. That's conceivable, and in that scenario, there would not be an infinite series of events. Okay?
What's the other scenario?
Right, another scenario is that there is an infinite sequence of events.
Excellent. So
and there are no brute facts.
Brilliant.
There's just an infinite sequence of events.
Fantastic.
So that's another
we
scenario.
agree. Okay, fantastic.
Okay.
Right now, do you know what you? Okay,
can we try and establish one of these is correct? Because I
Brilliant.
think we don't know.
So what you've just said here is that you've got two options.
Well, more than two. I mean, there's at least two.
Fine.
I'm not saying only two.
No. It's gonna boil down to these two things.
Okay.
Either in your own articulation, this is your own articulation. Either that there is an infinite regress of explanatory mechanisms, if you like, or explanations, or that there isn't. Right?
Well, there could be something ambiguous.
If there isn't, in your language, there must be a brute fact which explains everything else.
No, that's not the only two options.
Give me another option.
Well, the third option is necessity, of course.
Of course, okay.
Right,
no
so that's
problem.
at least three options.
Well,
and we might even add a fourth option.
Go ahead.
There may be some ambiguity. So when we think about sort of, why does the universe exist? We might say, well, the universe came about because of some event that happened before the Big Bang.
No, but we're not talking about temporality like that.
No, but this is relevant, I think.
Go ahead.
Because, so we might say, okay, that caused this and this caused that, and We might have a scenario where there's an ambiguity about the nature of causal relations. So, for example, there have been proposals in Einstein's relativity, space and time can warp. Okay, they're not just flat, and time can be curved. So, for example, we're standing here on the Earth, and the Earth curves space-time, and that means time ticks slower here than if we were in a satellite. Then our clocks can't. If we put a big tower, so the top of the tower, the clock would run faster than here at the Earth. So you can see there are solutions to Einstein's equations where time can actually loop back on itself.
Just to be fair, I haven't mentioned temporality.
No, but I know you haven't. But I think it's important to raise it. Now, if that scenario, we've made a film with Richard Gott, who proposed a model of the universe where if we go back to the Big Bang, to the origin of the expansion, there is this loop in time. And so if you ask him, No, but let me finish the point. If you ask him, well, what was the cause? It's like asking what's the beginning of a circle. It just loops back on itself.
No problem.
Now, in this case, now I raise this. I know you're not that necessarily want to go into the cosmology, but it raises an interesting point. Is that there's really an ambiguity about the notion of cause and effect, about what is causing what. Because normally we think there's no ambiguity about cause and effect because we're just moving forwards in time. That's our experience of the world. But if the time could circle back, then there's an ambiguity. So it may be that there are ambiguities in this way. There's a second ambiguity. Stephen Hawking, another scientist I've interviewed, he has another proposal where space, normally we think of the universe as the technical term is a Lorentzian manifold, and that means there's three space dimensions and one time dimension. He suggests that if we go to the Big Bang, we have what's called a Euclidean manifold. So there's four space dimensions and no time dimension. And then, again, there's an ambiguity about cause and effect, right? So it could be that in these cause and effect relations there are ambiguities.
Right, but I haven't mentioned cause and effect.
No, I know you haven't, but I think they are relevant to the argument.
No,
because we're really asking what is the cause of the universe.
Philip,
and it could be that there are ambiguities in
Philip, what you're doing now is, with all due respect, you're poisoning the well.
I don't think I am.
Yes, you definitely are. Because
tell me why.
you're basically ready for something that I'm not giving you. In the sense that you've come here with kind of ammunition to attack cause and effect, and I haven't even mentioned causation.
I know you haven't, but I think it's relevant.
It's not relevant.
But it is relevant.
I'm telling you it's not, and I haven't mentioned it, and it's not fair that you tell me that it is. It's not, because you can make a causal argument, and I haven't made it today, and I can go into causation. But I'm not making a causal argument. I haven't even made my argument yet. I'm just gathering the points of agreement. Now, where we actually agree, from what you've said, now you've exhausted in the logical disjunction, if you like, You have a logical disjunction. And in your understanding, there are three different... In your understanding, and I tend to agree with what you're saying, You have... But I don't agree with your distinction between brute fact and necessity, but that's not a problem. For the sake of argument, I'll let you have it, okay? Even though no one in the philosophy says this,
Well, I disagree, they do.
Who, like who?
Well, Sean Carroll had a very good discussion about this. And,
No, did he say that there was a distinction between brute facts and necessity?
Yes, as far as
What
I
did he
understand.
say? In what book? Sorry, I can't remember this.
No, it was a discussion, on a radio.
No. If it's a radio show, I can't trace it.
Okay, well, have you got? Okay, fair enough.
Yes.
Have you got
Yes.
quotes that say brute facts and necessary things are the same?
Yeah,
thing?
of course.
Well, let's hear them.
All right,
Where's
so-
your reference?
Yeah, I'll give you my references. There's no problem at all.
Okay, go on, let's hear it.
Okay, so actually, I'll give you books. I'll give you many books. I just had a conversation on Skype with Joshua Rasmussen,
Okay.
who wrote a book called A Necessary Existence. And in this, he mentions the brute fact objection. He's one of the people that have written about this. And he says,
Who
okay,
is he,
fine.
sorry?
Joshua Rasmussen, he's a professor at Azusa University.
Sorry,
Okay?
sorry, at what's the university?
Azusa in California.
Okay.
But look, this is a contemporary. I can give you Bertrand Russell. Didn't make a differentiation. Bertrand Russell himself,
Yeah.
when he was in his books,
Yeah, I agree. He said they were brute facts.
brute facts for him were
I
not
don't-
different from necessary existence.
But what passage did he say that?
What that was.
In which book did he say that?
All right. So, for example, right. So Bertrand Russell in his discussion on the radio with Couples.
Sorry, I thought we said radio discussions were off limits.
No, because this one is actually transcribed and academically referenceable.
Well, what do you mean by academically referenced? It's an assertion.
No, hold on. Bertrand Russell's
Yeah.
debate with Copleston was on BBC.
Yeah, I know.
And
about it,
it's
yeah.
transcribed.
But where in that debate did he say that there was? Can someone fact check this?
No, I'm telling you what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I don't-
Bertrand Russell famously
Yeah.
said the universe just is, yeah?
Yes, agreed.
Okay, the universe just is, meaning the universe is the necessary existence.
Ah, he didn't say that as far as I know.
Okay, fine, well, we can do that.
You're just asserting that.
I'm just
What's
asserting
the
that.
quote?
Leibniz himself said that in his book.
Now Leibniz is saying, arguing for necessary existence.
Yes.
But there's a clear difference.
No, but he doesn't
because
differentiate
what
between
Leibniz
them.
is saying is that things, they logically have to be that way.
Fine.
Okay.
But
That
you've
is
asked
not
for
what
references and I've given you.
I don't think you've given me a valid reference.
Okay, I've given you one book.
You haven't.
I've actually had.
Well, where is it? I want the
Fine,
quote.
it's called the necessary existence.
Where's the quote that says
What
necessary
page?
things improve? Yeah, I want a quote.
No, I can't give you the page
Well,
number.
okay, so
I
we've
think
got
now
no-
you're, and I think, Philip, with all due respect, I think now you're just acting a bit childish. With all due respect.
Really?
Yeah, because you're
it's not
asking for page
childish.
numbers.
Oh, no, it's not childish. If you're saying
No,
that
I've given you a
if
name
you're
of a book.
saying that I am getting the philosophy wrong,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you're asserting these people said this. There's nothing childish for me to ask for the reference.
Okay, let me explain.
Right, so you can bring
Let
it
me
out
explain.
and show it to me.
I've just, what, do you want me to show it to you now? What, I have a stack of books behind me or something?
Well, I've got loads of, on my iPad,
No,
I have
with all
loads
due
of books,
respect.
and I
With
can
all
give
due
you,
respect. With all due respect,
I can
I'm
give you
giving
references very
it. I'm
quickly.
giving it to you anyways. For the sake of argument.
Okay.
So you understand it. Philip's understanding. Okay. No problem. You have brute fact. You have necessary existence. Differentiate between them. I
think so.
don't. And then you have a third thing, which is an infinite regress. Yeah. Okay. What I said to you is that, say for example, you have an infinite regress of dependent things, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That infinite regress of dependent things is, in effect, the independent thing, right?
You can have more than one status.
You can't be dependent and independent at the same time.
And you can have self-referential sets. I mean, that's what Russell was all about, right? So this is just a case of a self-referential set. I don't see what the problem
No. Here's what you just said.
Yeah.
You said you have three options. I'm saying what you said.
I
Philip,
didn't say
please.
only three options.
Yes, you. Okay. Anything else?
I already mentioned the fourth option.
Please, yeah. What's the
I
fourth
mean, I
one?
don't know why I have to say it again.
No, say it, please. I want to
There
remind
can be
myself.
ambiguities about statuses of conceptual things. So, as I said, in the case of close time like curves, which were
but you're talking
time
about
can
cause and
curve
effect.
back on itself.
But I'm
You
not
can-
talking about
yeah,
cause
but
and
I can say what I'm saying. I'm trying to give an example of something that has an ambiguous status. So, in this case, there's an ambiguity. So, you want to define things very neatly and put them into very neat packages. It's X or it's Y. Okay? But there are cases in mathematics where things cannot be so clearly defined. But there are things in probability theory
Fine.
where you
We're
can
not
say
talking about probability right
no,
now.
but I'm trying to give an example where things are ambiguous, where
Fine.
it's not as well defined as what you say.
Okay, but we're doing an exhaustive list right now.
Okay. So what I'm saying is a further option might be that there's an ambiguity in these sorts of relationships.
No, that's
So
not
that
an
could be-
option. Sorry,
Why is that not an option?
Let me explain why.
Okay,
With all
go
due
ahead.
respect, but once again, so
Right.
I'm trying to follow what you're saying,
Yeah.
and I'm going with what you're saying, right?
Okay, yeah.
But you said option one is that you have, we said already, that you have an infinite regress of dependent things.
Okay.
Option two for you is the brute fact hypothesis,
Yeah.
and option three is the necessary existence
Yeah,
hypothesis.
and option 4 is
And
these
option
things are ambiguous. It
you-
can't be
option
fitted
4
to
for you is ambiguous, but that's
Yeah.
not really saying anything. That's a meaningless statement. It's not an
Why is
option.
it meaningless? There's nothing meaningless about saying something is ambiguous.
No, it's not an option because there's nothing to point to. If I say, if
Well,
you
tough luck.
No, excuse me,
Tough luck.
excuse me. Philip, you're a clever man. I don't want to have to. I don't have to lower my opinion. If someone said to me, "How'd you get to Marble Arch Station?"
Yeah.
I say, "Okay, there's 3 routes.
Yeah.
You can either get through this route, or you can get through this route,
Right.
or you can get through this route, and there's actually a 4th route as well." So what's that one? I don't know. It's ambiguous. He's going to say that 4th one is not actually a route at all. He's going to say that 4th one is a non-option. Do you understand? So in this exhaustive list that we've just been able to brainstorm, me and yourself, we've been able to go for 3 things. And Philip, the 3 things we talked about is either that you have a brute fact, either you have a necessary existence, or either you have an infinite regress of dependent things.
All right, can I respond to that?
Yes, of course. Do you want to add something to it?
If you want to add
Meaningful.
something to it, then
There's
I'll
nothing.
respond.
I can tell you, there's nothing to add to it.
Okay, well, let me respond.
And by the way, there's nothing that any philosopher has added to it in 2,000 years.
Okay, let me respond.
So if you want to add something to the
Let me respond.
discourse,
Okay,
that's
so
fine.
there are things that philosophers in 2,000 years didn't know about. Okay,
No problem.
We've learned a lot over the last
So give us
few
a
years.
4th option.
Okay, so I have, it's the ambiguous option.
That's
so,
not an option.
Okay, you say that, but I think it is an option because there are things that we've discovered. Let me just give you an example, and there are many others. So just take improbability theory. So we normally, you think you can get a definitive answer to something. Is it probable or not probable? Let's suppose, there's a very famous paradox in probability theory, which is very interesting. So let's suppose there's a serial killer and he's kidnapped you and he's going to kill you, but he's going to roll a die.
Oh my God.
6-sided die, and if he rolls the die, okay, he rolls the die, and if he rolls a 6, he's going to kill you. But if he rolls anything else, he's going to let you go. So you've been in prison. Now let's suppose you're thinking, shall I try and escape before he does the dice roll? And you work out that the probability of your successful escape is 50%. Okay, so you think, okay, and let's suppose an electric fence, maybe you know that 12 hours out of the day it's on, if you touch it you'll be electrified, 12 hours out of the day it's not on, and you can climb over easily, right? So you might think, I shouldn't bother trying to escape because I've got a 50% chance of dying, and I've got a 5 out of 6 chance of surviving with the dice roll, so I shouldn't bother with the escape plan. However, let us suppose that we add another little twist to this story. Let's suppose we know that the serial killer, what he's doing is he's kidnapping people and he's rolling the dice, and if he gets unsuccessful, then what he'll do is he'll kidnap many more people, let's say 10 times as many, and he'll keep doing this until he gets a successful roll. Okay?
Oh my God.
Right? Now in this case,
He keeps killing the people.
right? Well, no, he does. He's not going to do it until he gets the dice roll. But the interesting thing is, in this case, you might think, okay, if I look at it from one sort of n equals 1 scenario, then I should just not try and escape because I've got a 5-6 out of chance of him not rolling a 6. It's much more likely he won't roll a 6 than he will. But if we take the thinking from the distribution, where you are likely to be in the distribution, well, he keeps kidnapping more and more people. So which group are you more likely to be in? You're more likely to be in the group of the most people.
Interesting,
right?
interesting,
So you actually, so now if you ask, so the point I'm trying to make here, if you analyse this mathematically and you're trying to decide which should you do, should you try and escape or not escape, you actually, there's no definitive answer.
Thank you.
There's actually ambiguity ambiguity.
Yes.
So there are questions. What I'm trying to demonstrate is that there are questions that have ambiguous answers, where you can't say it's this or that. And it might be that because of the examples I gave of closed time-like curves and Euclidean manifolds, that where the answer to these sorts of
It's
questions
like basically the liar paradox.
is ambiguous.
Kind of like that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
but-
I mean,
okay, fine.
well, ambiguity and
problem.
paradoxes are not quite the same, but
Yeah,
yes,
but
they
you know
have.
the
They,
liar par- but-
they have a common thing, which is there's not a definitive answer.
But with those ones, like, I think his name is Jimmy Khalil. He wrote like 100 paradoxes.
Jim Al-Khalili.
Is that his name? Yeah.
Jim Al-Khalili. He's a physicist at the University of Sussex.
Yeah, and he wrote like a book on paradoxes and
Yeah,
so on.
yeah.
But someone could argue that those things are meaningless.
Well, why are they meaningless?
A lot of philosophers have said that those things are actually meaningless because they don't.
Okay, you can't just say a lot of philosophers said it. Why are they meaningless?
Well, I've let you speak for about 4 minutes and I've kept quiet and then when I started.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead. You're right.
Come on. The reason why they say it's meaningless is because it doesn't point to any particular direction. So, for example, if I say I am not here, if I say to you right now, I am not here,
Right.
it's a meaningless statement because it doesn't carry any truth value. That's the reason why. It doesn't carry any truth value. If I say to you, look, okay, I'm going to send you, let me give you another example. This statement is false. You know, these are some of the things that are meaningless statements. So they don't carry any truth value. So what you agreed with me is like paradoxes, etc., is not actually pointing in any direction. Going back to the marble arch example. But let me go back to what our thing is, because I want to get to the argument.
Yeah, that would be
Okay,
great. Let's get to the argument. Why don't you just tell us the answer?
No, because I wanted you to rinse out everything that you had.
Well,
Now
that's
we're
the 4 things that I can think of.
Perfect. Okay. So let's deal with that which we can point to. All right.
Okay.
Number one, let's say either you have a necessary being or existence. You have a necessary existence or a brute fact, or you have an infinite regress of dependent things.
Yeah.
Now listen, if you have an infinite regress of dependent things, it becomes the independent. Here's what I would say though. Listen, and this is my argument. Anything that is subject to dissembly, or in other words, that you can, something that you can dissemble. Break it.
Assemble? Or disassemble?
Disassemble,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah.
So anything that you can disassemble,
Yes.
anything that can be broken up into parts is dependent.
Okay, go on.
Therefore, you can't have an infinite regress of dependent things. Because the problem would be, if you have an infinite regress of dependent things, you can put things into it and take things out of it. And for example, that infinite regress of dependent things is dependent on those things within it. So it wouldn't be independent. So in other words,